To those of you online, you can go ahead and take the mic hot. Good job. Thank you very much. We're about ready to get started. Let me put 20 minutes on the clock. All right, we got 20 minutes on the clock, and we got about another minute. We're going to fill the time. We're going to be moving quickly. I will not have time for questions today. I apologize about that, just because of the amount of content we've got to get through. But I'm happy to chat with you later if you want to catch me by the Microsoft booth or whatever. Happy to do that. Just going to give you a couple of thoughts around this. I've been a manager at multiple companies, from the military to NASA to Microsoft and others. And I've been an individual contributor, we call them, IC, or worker, or whatever employee, regular employee, technical professional, whatever, at those companies as well. So I've been on both sides. Good morning. Come on right on in. Okay. How you doing? Yeah, I'm all right.
Ready for the session?
No, are you? No, it's going to be great. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what I'm going to say. It's going to be really good. All right, good stuff. Got a couple of folks driving in from the other place. Got some folks online. Welcome to those of you online. Thank you for joining. Hope you enjoy this today. You are able to type in questions. I won't have time to answer them during the session, but the moderator will be happy to relay those to me, if that's okay. And then we'll get them back to you somehow. All right, got some folks coming on in. Couple more. Those are some nice bags, the Quest bags. I like those. Very, very nice giveaway there. Morning. Okay, we're actually at time, but I'm going to wait just a second to let everybody else in. I think he's closing up now. Okay. Morning, everybody. How we doing? Show of hands. How many of you have had a bad boss? Seriously? Some of you have not had a bad... You work for yourself? Is that what it is? Then you've got a terrible boss. Everybody's had a bad boss. We've had people that weren't great. How many of you have left a company over a bad boss? Yeah, me too. Me too. In fact, there's a saying in the States, people don't leave companies, they leave bosses. They literally don't. And we know this, right? And yet companies and ourselves keep making the same mistakes with our management. So in this session, what I plan to do today is talk to you about the decision factors you need to make about whether to be a manager or stay in your technical role. My voice is a little messed up. I've been talking for 2 weeks. So today it's giving out. I'm eating these cough drops or whatever. It's not helping very much. So hopefully you can hear me okay. All right. The importance of a good manager. I know you're like, well, I know I want a good manager, but do you know why? Does the company know why? Does the organization know why they need good managers? They're very rare. I have had far more bad or mediocre managers than I've had good. I can count the good on one hand, and I've been working for 42 years. So I can count the good bosses. They're really, if you've got a good boss, you should be very thankful. That's odd, just so you know statistically. A good manager sets the success of both the planning of what you're going to do and the implementation of what the group they manage does. That's their job. The second thing a good manager does is they instill confidence and a sense of safety in a team. You ever been on a team that you didn't feel safe? I don't mean that like somebody was going to physically attack you, although I was in the military and sometimes we did get physically attacked, but I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about like you just don't feel like your needs are being looked after or that anybody cares about you or your job could go at any moment, things like that. Can't work good like that. You're not efficient like that. They run interference for the team. Have you ever dealt with things you shouldn't be dealing with? You're trying to get your job done and you're doing all this other nonsense? Shouldn't happen. Your boss should take that away or minimize it as much as humanly possible. That's the role. This is what I do when I manage. Anytime somebody comes onto my team, I tell them that they're going to get 3 clarities. The first is a clarity of purpose. Here's what we do at this organization, this company. Here's what our part of that org does. Here's what this team does. Here's what you do. This is the why. Now, I realize you got to work to eat. I get that. I've worked lots of jobs where I just, I didn't necessarily, when I was a teenager, I wasn't like involved in the mission of McDonald's to sell everybody a hamburger. I didn't care if they sold a hamburger or not. But my boss was able, even there, to say, we're providing a service, and you don't want to go home sick from food that wasn't cooked properly. And you don't want to go home mad because somebody was mean to you at the restaurant. So let's not do that. He was able to give that sense of purpose. So the boss creates clarity of purpose. You need to know why you're doing. You don't have to answer this. Can you say in your mind right now, you know exactly why what you're doing matters to the company? If you don't, your boss has not made that clear. Next, clarity is the process. How do you do what you do? What are the guardrails? What are the expectations? What are the requirements, things you have to do? What are the constraints? Don't you love finding out you weren't supposed to do that after you do it? I love that. We don't do that here. Well, it seems like you'd have mentioned that when we started, right? That'd be a good thing to do. And then the final clarity is very interesting, people. So, Buck, you're going to be in charge of this. Anthony, you're in charge of that. To both Buck and Anthony, they both hear that. So that Anthony doesn't swim over into my lane, and I don't swim over into his lane. Have you ever had something where you're kind of at cross purposes in your group? You're trying to get stuff done, and the other person's like, well, no, I was working on that. You ever had that? That's a failure. That's a problem. So I try to get the 3 Ps, clarity of purpose, clarity of process, and clarity of people. So now let's talk about the myth and the realities of management. Let's talk about the myths first. You ready? Onward or upward? The myths of management. Number 1, I'm really good at what I do. I'd be a great manager. Just because you can drive a race car doesn't mean you should own a race car team. Those are different skills. But we often, and by this I mean companies often, don't recognize that the only path to promotion should not be that you have to go into management, because you've either limited your people or you're going to build really bad managers. A lot of us that have traits are really good at what we do because of those traits. I'm a focus to detail and I have high expectations and so on. You carry that into management and you don't have the ability to inspire anyone else. You can just stay on them all the time about what they're not working on. You're not going to be a great manager. Just because you're good at software development does not mean you'll make a great manager. In fact, I've known a bunch of guys that were terrible at software management or software development, and they put them in management and they were great managers, right? Find what you're good at and do it. Next myth, I can only lead. I can only make a difference if I'm a manager. Not true. Not true. You can lead from wherever you are. We all know that person that when they speak up, everybody stops and listens, even the management team, because they want to know what Anthony's talking about, because they trust Anthony. You can lead from wherever you are. To progress in my career, I got a white beard here. I'm old. I really should. I'm still coding. I'm still doing data science at my age. Yeah, I am. Yeah, that's okay. No one cares. There's Bob Hope was a comedian in the U.S., and he made this statement. At 20 years old, we worry about what other people are thinking about us. At 40 years old, we don't care what other people are thinking about us. And at 60 years old, we find out nobody's thinking about us. You'd be surprised that the they that's in your head don't actually exist. Everybody's so full of angst, we don't actually have time to judge you. I'll get to judging you as soon as I finish judging myself. You do not need to become a manager to progress in your career. We need great workers. If you're really good at something, please continue to do that. All right? You need to know yourself. I'm going to give you 2 scenarios. You ready? First scenario. You get work you enjoy. You get recognized for your efforts. You have a limited set of responsibility of things you own. You get rewards and promotion based on what you do. Okay, this is your first choice. Second choice. You develop someone else. You get recognized when your group does well, not when you do well. Have you ever done a group project? Did you enjoy that? I had a t-shirt that says, I want my college group to be my pallbearers at my funeral so they can let me down just one more time. And now the responsibility, all your people own your responsibility. You guys better make sure you get this done correctly. I'm counting on you, Anthony. Make them do that job. And you're like, oh my gosh, Buck is half sick. He's not even here. Oh my gosh. And finally, you're going to get rewarded and promoted based on other people and what they do. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. You need to look at this list very carefully and say which one of these things appeals to you and be honest with yourself. If the top one appeals to you, please, for the love of everything, do not become a manager. This is normally the kind of managers we see. They're out for themselves. They want to do things their way. They want to be recognized for what they do. They don't want to be recognized for what the group does, and so on. Don't become a manager if you really enjoy this. If this is things you enjoy right here, don't become a manager, please. This needs to be important to you. All right. So know yourself. Let's talk about some of the management skills you're going to need. You're going to need hard skills and soft skills. The soft skills are really traits. So when this is done, you might want to take a photo. Number one, you need to know how to plan and organize. Yeah, I'm real organized. No. You need to take a class on it. You need to understand the different paradigms of organization. You need to have trained for organization like you trained to learn Python. You need to understand time management. There's a skill here. This is a thing to do because you're going to run out of time all the time, and you're going to be running from wall to wall, holding it up as it falls down. That's the way it works. So you need to have good time management. Next, you need to be able to set goals. They need to be realistic, but make everybody stretch. Thank you. You need to know how to problem solve, because that's what you're going to do all day long. You're not going to write code. You're not going to write code. You're going to solve problems. You need to know what your company does. You need to know how your goals for your team align to what your company does. And you need to know the technical knowledge of being a manager. There's as much skill in a technical knowledge. There's as much certification and technical knowledge of being a manager as there is in code. Soft skills. You need to be empathetic, not sympathetic. Sympathetic means I feel bad because you feel bad. Empathetic means I know you feel bad. Let me see what I can do. But at the end of the day, you're not their buddy. You're not the friend. You're the boss. You need to know how to communicate. Over-communicate. You need to say, do this a little better. You're doing great here. You need to learn to coach. You need to learn to motivate. You're here, Anthony. I need you here. You need to be fair. Oh my gosh. It's the basic thing of humankind is to be fair. The perception of fair, right? And finally, you need to mean what you say. You need to have integrity. This is hard because there'll be times when you're put in a corner. This is the last part, by the way, if you want to take that picture. You're going to be put in a corner and you're going to have to say, I know we were doing this. We have to do this now. You do that too many more times, you lose the credibility. You're done. You're done. Your team won't respect you. I'm sure you've seen bosses that don't have these, and it's pretty obvious. All right, here we go. Let me talk to you about being a manager. I've been a manager, not been a manager in lots of companies. Here's some truths I learned. Number one, your day changes every day. You will not know what you're doing tomorrow. That's the way it works, and it changes. Like, I know we were going full court press this way. We're on this way now. Why? Doesn't matter, do it. You got to go to your team and say, drop everything. We got to do this. You have to make difficult choices. This person's a better worker than that person. I got to let you go. That's hard. That is really hard. You look somebody in the face and you tell them, you're not getting that promo. You need to improve. You're fired. That's hard to do. Should be hard to do. If it isn't, you're a psychopath. You need to put others first. So you take the hit. If there's a late shift, you're going to take it, not your team. They need to know you have their back. Your success is not your own. You are going to find out that what they do, you have an amazing amount of power as a worker because you can trash your boss by not doing your job. And this is terrifying because if you become the boss, they can trash you by just being a jerk. And you're going to have way more work time. You know how they say when you think you don't have time, do you have children? You think you don't have work time until you become the boss. And finally, you're going to have a lot more administration. Your love tool is not going to be Visual Studio Code. It's going to be Outlook and PowerPoint. Don't look at me like that. That's just the way it is, okay? That's the way it is. These are the tools of the trade, and Excel. But everybody uses Excel, so I don't count that. Did you see the F1 director took over the Ferrari team and he found out they're running the entire org on 20,000 Excel spreadsheets. It's the world's database. I don't know why we're not featuring it here. All right, how do you get there? We're finishing up. Here's the process. Number one, go figure out what you're good at. Go take a look at those hard skills, those soft skills. If you don't have them, what's your plan to have them? Can you have them? You're just not an empathetic person, don't become a boss. Oh my gosh. But if you say, well, I can learn if I know, so you're going to have to build a little self-syllabus to figure out how you get where you need to get, define those gaps, and then implement that plan to learn them. Ask. First time I became a boss, I was, where was I at? I was at U.S. Space Command. I hadn't reached NASA yet. And I went to the guy and I said, I think I want to be a boss. I was a boss in the military. I think I want to, how do I do that? He said, you just started. You'd be surprised, just go to your company and say, I want to be a boss. And you're like, well, they wouldn't take that. Yeah, they will. They're actually looking for you because they know that the managers are important. Network. The more people you know, the more odds are that you're going to get somebody that's going to need you as a manager. And then look, get online, do the LinkedIn things. I'm going to give you a LinkedIn learning course in just a minute that I find really well. All right, what are your responsibilities? You need to notice the strengths of each person. Everybody's going to have strengths and weaknesses. And even if they're opposite from each other, you're going to need to know how to paint with each color. That's hard to do. It's a different skill than writing code. And they don't know their strengths. People don't know what they're good at. They think they do, but they don't. You need to create a mental health strategy. You need to figure out what it takes for your team to be healthy, how they get some time off and all the rest. You need to take those breaks. You need to foster learning. Set aside some time each morning and tell your team, go learn something new. And I want you to tell the rest of the group what you learned. You need to carve that time. We don't have that kind of time. Make the time. Create an open environment. People can be respectful without being rude, but after that, you should make sure it's open. I never had a problem with somebody telling me, I don't think you did the right thing. Okay, let's talk about it. Never say, what are you talking about? You don't ever talk to me like that. You don't do that. You make sure you stay open, and you make sure people can stay open with each other while being respectful. You need to communicate often. In fact, you need to over-communicate. You need to communicate way more than you think, well, of course they know what we're doing. No, they don't. No, they don't. How many of us have these bad bosses and then they come in out of the blue? We call them seagull bosses. They come in, they flap their wings, they make a lot of noise, they poop all over everything and they leave, right? You don't want to be a seagull boss. And finally, learn to do active listening. If you don't know what active listening is, take a note. There's a skill called active listening. If you don't know what that is, go look it up, take some courses, watch some YouTubes, and so on. This is very important. I teach a whole course on this. We don't have time to do that right now. Now, you need a course or something you want to learn? I like LinkedIn Learning. This is the one I use. Become a Manager. Really good course. If you haven't taken this one, act like you are taking the training to become a manager. If you're halfway through the training and it's awful and you don't like it, then don't become a manager. And you say, well, at my company, I have to go up or out. Then you need to find a different company. You need to find a company that will let you be a super tech, if that's what you're good at. If you're good at leading other people, go do that. If you're not good at leading other people, please don't do that. We have enough bad managers. We got plenty. We have a surplus. What we need are the good ones. All right, we end where we started. A good manager is incredibly valuable and incredibly rare. You may or may not make a fantastic manager. Now you have the skills to figure out whether you should go down that path or not. I appreciate your time today. Hope you found out something useful in here.